Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have a first in a series. This is going to be Christmas in July. Let's jump right in. So to start, you can see here I have some Oxide sprays. I just picked these up. I'm so excited to show you how they work, and let's go. So I have Spun sugar and Tumbled glass, and I'm going to mist them onto a piece of Canson watercolor paper. You do shake them because they're a pigment fusion. And I'm only adding a little bit of tumbled glass. And as you can see, I've never used tumbled glass before, so it came out a bit thicker than I actually wanted it to. So I am going to go back in with my spun sugar and spray a little bit more on. Now you can see that I'm using the Splat Box. So the Splat Box is wonderful for keeping mess a bit more contained. I tend to be a bit of a messy crafter, so the Splat Box is working really well for me. But based on what Tim Holtz has said, you don't want to use water in the Splat Box because water and it will melt. Well, it doesn't melt the cardboard, but it pretty much ruins it. So the tumbled glass was a bit strong on my background, so I did go back once it was dry and add a little bit more spun sugar on top. And you can see when I take my distress sprayer, I don't push the handle down very far because I want a fatter drop of water. Like if you want a mist, you push down the handle and you get a mist. But in this, I only want thicker drops of water to kind of create some texture in my background. So I kind of lightly hold the handle down just a little bit to spit out bigger drops. So once my panel was completely dry, I'm going to use now the Simon Says Stamp Snowflake Builder set, and I'm using the biggest snowflake out of that set, and we're going to gold emboss it onto the background. So I'm going to use a lot of anti-static powder because I saturated this cardstock pretty heavily. I really didn't want the ink or the embossing powder to stick where it's not supposed to, so I put a lot of anti-static on there. And then I've never used this set. I got it in too late to use it for Christmas last year, so it was one of the kits at the end of last year from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm using my Versamark ink, and I'm going to press that down with my mini Misti because this is a 2-stamp set. It's the Snowflake Builder, right? So there's 2 sets to it. And so I wanted to use my mini Misti so I could line up my stamps pretty easily. And then we're going to pull it out of the mini Misti, and we're going to use Brutus and Monroe's Gilded embossing powder. This is a beautiful gold embossing powder. And now I know that pink and gold and blue are not really Christmas colors, but bear with me. I love pink and gold. I love them together. I think they're so stunning, and I think that this created a beautiful card. Now, my mom informed me that pink and gold are not Christmas colors. However, bear with me. I think the card turns out stunning, and the picture does just not do it justice whatsoever. At all. Like, it just does not do it justice. So you do want to heat up your heat gun pretty, like maybe 60 seconds before you add it to the card. Otherwise it will start to warp the cardstock, and because this cardstock was already a little bit warped because of all the liquid I had added, I really didn't want it to get more warped, so I waited for it to heat up before I brought it to my cardstock to melt the embossing powder. So you guys can see, you saw me make my background. That took me minutes. The longest part of that background was me waiting for the ink to dry. Because I do kind of like to let it dry by itself. I find that I get different, it looks different to me when it dries naturally than when I add heat to dry it. Sorry, I put my head in the way here. I'm trying really hard to line up the second step of the Snowflake Builder stamp set. And so I had to get my head right in there, and I got my head in the way of the camera there. So we're going to stamp the second set. And now when I stamped this down, I was so tempted not to add any embossing powder. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. I took the Versamark ink, and I was so tempted not to add any embossing powder. In the end, I did, as you saw from the picture in the beginning. But it was tempting not to do it because you're going to see here, once we get the impression down and once I lift up the card so you can see it, the oxides, for whatever reason, if you're stamping the Versamark on the back, it's stunning. Like, the watermark that it creates is just beautiful, and I was so tempted. I lifted up there, you can see that beautiful impression. I was so tempted not to add embossing powder, but in the end I did because I was going for a certain look. But now that I've seen that, I'm going to have to make a card with the same Oxide ink background and Versamark watermarks. of some kind of stamp set. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do, but it's given me ideas, guys, so many ideas. So these oxides are just, the sprays are so much fun and so fast to create backgrounds. I love to create backgrounds. They're one of my favorite things to do. I'll sit down and create tons of backgrounds and then do nothing with them just because I wanted to play with some of my supplies. So they're so much fun. So it took me minutes to make that background, whereas normally I'd take the ink pad, I'd smush it down, I'd, keep doing, and I wouldn't even have, it would have taken me 20 minutes to make a background with that much kind of depth in it. Whereas with this, it was so easy. And now I lost the footage of me stamping out Merry Christmas, but it was the exact same process. I used my mini Misti, I stamped my own Merry Christmas, used Versamark ink, and then I heat set it with my heat tool and the gold embossing powder. So now I felt like the panel just needed a little bit more. So I'm going to add a gold rim around the whole panel. It's going to be really thin. All you saw there that all I did was take my Versamark ink pad and just lightly touch it to the sides. So it's going to be a pretty thin, but it adds something. It just finished off the card a little bit, and I really like how it turned out. I've never actually done this. Christina Warner does this. This is where I learned this from, and her cards always turn out stunning. So I had to try it with this one because I thought it would add a little bit more elegance to this card. And I'm going to heat set that as well, and you're going to see how beautiful this turns out. And I'll hold it up so you can see all the shine and shimmer from this gold embossing powder. Brutus Monroe makes some stunning embossing powders. They have my favorite 3 that I use, the Alabaster White, the Gilded, this one, and their Icicle. Just beautiful embossing powders, and so I tend to reach for them the most. I actually am waiting. I'm hoping they're going to have a sale on something soon just so I can buy some embossing powder because I love their embossing powder. It's just stunning. And so we're going to heat set that until it's smooth and melted. And that's one thing I love about their gold embossing powder is it's really easy to tell when it melts because you can see it visually change. I always keep in the embossing powder melting. My husband watches all of my videos. He's so sweet. And he loves to watch the embossing powder melt. So if you ever see me leave it in, it's because he always comes and tells me how cool it is when it melts. So this is for you. And yeah, so I leave that in for him just so he can enjoy the videos. He watches all my videos. He's an amazing man. So yes, I'm going to heat set this until it's smooth and melted. And I go over it twice just to make sure I didn't miss any areas. But you have to be careful. You don't want to burn the embossing powder or your paper. And here you can see all that shine. Isn't that stunning? Like, it's just so pretty. I like shine. You guys know this. It's one of my things. And then here you can see that I stuck it down. I did cut that part out because this is a slightly longer video. So all I did was stick my panels down. You know that I like to have a black mat if you've been with me for a minute. And this is an A2 card size base. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I have my black mat is 1/8 of an inch smaller than that. And then my panel, I already had it cut down before I use it. Just that's how I go. That's what I like to do. And so I've just cut that down, and I used Nuvo Deluxe glue to stick everything down. And then here I have some Studio Katia sparkling crystals, and I'm going to stick those down with the Nuvo glue as well. And I just did one in the center and then one on each of the longer points in the snowflakes. So I didn't put them everywhere that I could have, so I was restraining myself a little bit. So if you guys have been with me for a hot minute, you know that I really like my glitter and bling. It adds to the card. But with this, I was trying really hard to kind of make a simpler, more elegant card, and you'll have to let me know what you think. Did this hit the mark? Do you think that pink and gold are okay for Christmas colors? I'd love to know what you think. So here I'm going to hold it up for you and let you take a gander at all that beautiful shine. And that's what I have for you guys today. I hope that you'll come back and check out the rest of my Christmas in July cards. I post a new video every Monday, and I would love to have you back. Thank you so much. I'd love to have you subscribe, like the video if you liked it, leave me a comment if you have any thoughts, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, guys.